We're good. You'll see it. You'll see it live. All right, Lab Coat agents. And we've got the Keller Williams region with us as well. We've got Paul Morris, my co-host. What's up, Paul?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. I think you and I always wear black shirts no matter what. So
I know, right?
We got that down. And today we have a special guest with us, Mark Tyoran, but most people call him Mark T. And this guy is absolutely amazing. The very first time I interviewed him, I think it was about five years ago or so, maybe a little bit more. So maybe 6 years ago. And I was blown away, not just his professionalism, but his kindness. Mark is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. Mark, seriously, don't do that with your face, because you are super kind, dude.
Thank you.
You are a true professional, and you're just an exemplary real estate agent, man. You've done it all. You've gone from being in this business for so long to where you are now. Just shows everyone that's looking from the outside in what's possible in real estate. And I think that's what I really want to make this about, because I want to go through
business. Yeah.
Yes. I want to go through the beginning.
Do whatever you want in this business and create whatever you want. Just, you have to go get it. And listen, I've been doing it a while, and it's become a incredible journey. And where I'm at, I'm incredibly thrilled, blessed, happy. But I started when we had the MLS books and cold calling. I was in at 7 a.m. when we didn't have that, you can't call stuff, and all the numbers were in the MLS book, and I call expireds at 7, and I do all my stuff in the day, and I'd go home and eat, and I'd come back at 7 at night. It was 7 morning, 7 at night, and it was expireds. And that got my business going. And then, business starts rolling. And then I decided I wanted to do luxury market, because you go to a bunch of seminars, and I got a coach early on. Coach was very key. And the thing was, I wanted to do fewer deals, because some of these people at the seminars were doing 100, 200, 300 deals. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like so much work. And back then, there wasn't the whole team thing and multiple assistants. You were doing the stuff, right? I'm like, oh my God, it sounds horrible. So I kind of went on the other track of, I'd rather sell fewer for a higher dollar volume. That would be so much nicer and easier. So I went for the luxury market, and it's worked out nicely. Yeah.
It has, man. But the transition, right? That transition is pretty tough.
It takes a while, because it's funny, the luxury market, people have to trust you and feel as though you can do it. Even though any agent that's been in the business a while can sell a luxury property the same as they could sell one with a lower price range, right? Still the same principles. The sellers sometimes feel as though that the agent's not capable, or not in that realm, or not in that genre, or ilk that they can do it. And so it's funny, once you get accepted into the I guess we call the upper end price range, you're kind of in. People feel as though you can do it. They want to call you. Someone else couldn't do it. So it's interesting once you're in that area, in that space, how things really start to get going. But yes, it does take a while. You can't just sort of send out some stuff and people go, oh, okay, I'll call you because I've gotten a couple of things from you. They feel as though they trust you and know you, because it's an expensive thing, and that you know how to handle it.
And it's one of the things that I hear realtors say so often is they want to move into the next price point. So I think it's very, very common for people to express that desire. To actually do it, on the other hand, is a different thing. So it would be fantastic. I've never met a realtor, for example, that didn't say, even if they're selling $10 million listings, and say, I'd really like to move to the $15 million listing, right? I mean,
get it.
We all hear that, and so I think it would be particularly useful for our audience to hear about that. How do you make that shift from selling, the average price house in your area to really into a higher price market or into a luxury market?
Right. So I think it's smart in any area you move up your price range, because that's one of the things to increase your business. So it's an incredibly smart move to do. You kind of do it as a sign. You've got your regular business, and then you try and work on your upper end stuff, but it's a longer process, and you have to sort of earn the right. You can't just say, I'm going to send out a year of mailers and I'm in. You have to sell a few properties, have them under your belt, send a few things out, have people feel confident, and then they'll trust you that you can do it. So it takes a while, but you have to have properties. So maybe you help somebody that does upper end stuff, and you say, listen, can I use your stuff? Can I be a co-listing and help you? I mean, whatever you need to do to get your name out there in that upper end price range, because then people will trust you and believe you can do it. Because as I said, ultimately, you're doing the same thing you would on something else. I mean, obviously some marketing and different stuff. But you know, if you know the lingo when you're in a listing appointment, you can say stuff about the architecture and how stuff's done. And I can tell you about every other estate property that's sold and the nuances and what was great and what wasn't. And the last 3 people, that guy did this one, this guy updated this guy added that. I mean, I know everything about everything in that estate market out here, inside out. And so when you're in an appointment, they totally trust you when you say, listen, we need to recarpet, we need to repaint, we need to do this. And they go, okay. I mean, you'd be surprised how once you have the credibility, people will trust you. I just had a guy do a $38,000 exterior paint job because they said the house was yellow, we needed to paint it. And he had to do scaffolding and all sorts of stuff, which I didn't realize. It's a 3-level. But he spent 38 grand because they said yellow houses don't sell. We painted it like a palish gray. But because he believed me that we should do that. And so I was like, well, that's some credibility, but that you get that from earning that from selling things, and people realize he knows what he's doing, and so they'll believe you on things. So it is an earned, I guess, status over the years. But to get into it, you just have to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and then use obviously the 1, the 2 that you've sold, and keep showing everyone what you did and how you did it, and then you'll slowly get in. But yeah, people feel it's a strange phenomenon, but people don't just trust anyone for an estate property. It's funny.
Mark, how long have you been in real estate?
33 years.
33
years.
30, okay, I wasn't sure what you said.
Yeah, started at
Trying
21.
to cover up a little.
I was in the title business first. I was a title rep. I used to run stuff back and forth from the offices. I was a messenger. So I would drive stuff. I'd deliver keys when a property closed. They used to have title companies deliver all this stuff. I'd go to escrow and pick up the checks and take them to the agents. I had a messenger. I had a CB radio and a Toyota, and I used to run around and deliver stuff.
Wow. 33 years, dude. So when would you say, like, year what in this business did you say, you know, I'm going to go all in into luxury? When did that happen?
Earlier on-ish. So I don't know quite what year, but I said I want to do more luxury stuff. And I got a luxury listing up in our area called North Ranch. And I sat that thing open every Saturday, every Sunday. And I wouldn't end at 5. I would be the guy that finished at 6 because I wanted to have the last remaining signs out. So I was the guy that was there till 6. So when everyone was kind of driving home, like, oh, there's still some 6, and then people would come by, and I sat it so often, and I would have stuff about the area, and I kind of got in based on that. And obviously it's all different now. We'll have to see what happens, but I got the one listing, and I milked the hell out of it. I did everything on it. I sent stuff out, and I lived there. I eventually sold it, but that's what I did to get started. But it does take a while. It does take a while because basically right then it was all postcards. I had to spend a lot of money on postcards and send stuff out, but it took a while. Yeah.
So with this taking a while, let's say we have a few people that are looking to break into certain areas. I know you've done this really well because I watched it coming into real estate. I knew who you were. So it's a cool thing to work with you because I get to see the awesome things that you do, bro. Congrats. But how can an agent who wants to break into an area do that well? What are the things that come to mind for you and say, hey, these are the things you need to do in order to be able to break into these areas? Because you've done it so well.
Right. So some of the luxury areas is tough because I do a lot of gated areas and you can't go door knocking and it's, you can't pass stuff out. It used to be like, ask someone to sit in open house, then ask to sit it every Sunday. Well, that stuff's gone a little bit. So you got to do, what's the new COVID strategy to break into luxury market? Not so easy right now. I mean, honestly, for the agents that have some business, you're in such a golden spot right now. I've never double-ended so many deals in my life because there aren't the open house people that might have grabbed someone like driving by that all of a sudden bought something. This has been the craziest year for double-ending properties. It's unbelievable because people are just calling up the listing agent. So I'd say for anyone, if you got a luxury person or potential, list it, put it out there, because you'll end up getting the calls. No one can sort of drive by it and go in it and see it in an open house. They're calling the agents now. And so even if you have a luxury, I guess, friend that's thinking about selling, get the word out because, inventory is king right now. So even if you have someone, you could even do a couple posts on Facebook with a obscure photo of the backyard so no one really knows where it is. And next thing you know, you could double end a luxury property because honestly, if you have inventory now, you're like king of everything. But it's been a crazy year of business. Yeah.
So how did you set yourself up? Oh, go ahead, Paul.
No, one of the things that Mark said was, really know your market inside and out. While that may be important, it sounds important in all markets. I think he's making a point too that in the luxury market, this is particularly important. So, Mark, one of the things that I think would be a great way to do that, and we want to hear it from you, is okay. So I'm selling average priced homes in my market. Really knowing every, the luxury market inside and out would be, I would guess, for example, going to every open house and studying it, right? Going to those larger, more expensive houses, maybe even going through the list of the things that have sold in your area and driving by so that you really understand that particular sector so that when you're talking about it to a potential client, right, you'll shine. I mean, there are things you can do right now during COVID to educate yourself about that market, which will then make the shift easier. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have to know the past inventory when you're sitting with a current seller. Because in our area right now, you can have a 5,000 square foot house, in, let's say North Ranch Westlake, that could sell for 1.9, and one could sell for 2.6. So you have to be very cognizant of, is this a 1.9, a 2, a 2.1, or a 2.6? Is this one? And you could be all over, but you have to be confident enough to say, listen, we need to list this one at 2.2 max. And they feel comfortable that that it shouldn't be a 2.5 because you tell them about all the other properties and the nuances and what happened there and how long it was on and what the prior, I mean, you just have to know your stuff. So yes, you could spend time studying, going through the photos, looking at listing history, what it sold at before. But when I'm on an appointment, I know everything about all the other properties, everything. And that comes from the confidence to tell them about the price. Because if you're not good on the price, everyone knows that 80% of your marketing is then at the listing appointment when you make the decision on what the pricing is, right? You can do all the marketing in the world for some overpriced thing and it's not going to happen. So the way you get great pricing is the inventory, the market, and you're confident in what you're saying. Now you're not underpricing stuff, but you're pricing it right? That's the whole key. Because people want to just name a number because Zillow said so. And so that doesn't work in the luxury market because they have no clue about it. Is it a view? Is it redone? Is it a special property? Some properties just are great because of where they sit, or everyone loves that house so much because they've always driven by it. So, you need to know your stuff. You have to know your stuff in the luxury market.
How do you stay up to date, Mark? How do you make sure that you know what's going on? Do you spend a few hours in the day, 30 minutes? What does that look like so people understand?
Listen, I'm in the hot sheet several times a day and looking at all the photos. I know everything that's going on with something that sold, something that came back in the market, something that just got reduced. So that's part number one in this market. Listen, who knows what's going to happen down the road? I caravan all the luxury stuff, right? If I hadn't seen the stuff before, because that's the way you really get in to see it. Plus you chat with all the brokers, you know what's going on. What do you have coming up? People will ask you, hey, do you have something like this coming up? I need something. Because people in that realm chat with one another. The other thing I'll say, you end up being in this little club, right? You're in the luxury market club and people will chat with one another and they trust one another in that range, right? Because you don't breach that trust. Someone says, I've got something coming up. Oh, I got this one coming up. I sold some few years ago. They're going to move out of the area. And that person's not going to run around and go after your stuff. So there's a trust in this club. But anyway, so when you're out caravanning, you meet other people, you have to go do that. So I don't know the future, what's going to go on with that, but that's very important. You really have to go out and see stuff. And if not, when things come up and sold in the hot sheet, go through the 50 photos now. I mean, it's great now. You probably don't have to go see as much because you can really get a feel for the photos, but know the property. Master redone. Was the kitchen redone? How was the yard? What stage of updatedness was it done? Right? I mean, that's the big key thing now. Was it a fixer, needed some work? Okay, those are down at the bottom. Redone or whoop-de-doo, so you have to know, because that makes a big difference. People are willing to overpay, let's say right now in this market, when it's done and whoop-de-doo, versus, the bottom of the list is like, fixer, redone. Even if it's a good value, people are like, I don't care. My payment's super cheap. I just want it redone. I want it unpacked. So you just know it. Just study the stuff. You really do.
Yeah. Somebody asked, during COVID, if you're not already a luxury market, do you think it makes sense to advertise and get, try and pick up some luxury buyers so that will give you entree into the houses to see them? But I think, Mark, in part, you answered it. You can see a lot now without even going into the house. By studying, their virtual tours. If you want to break into a luxury market in a particular area, first of all, I would probably identify a particular area and then do all that you can from your computer. But in addition to that, do you think it makes sense, and it's out of the chat room, to try and advertise or pick up some luxury buyers so that you can then run around and see some of these houses and break into that market?
Listen, it's always good to try and work on some stuff. The luxury stuff, if you're going to go after luxury stuff on the listing side, you need to farm an area. You need to farm it like a lot and consistently and send out great stuff. Unfortunately, you're going to have to spend some money, have a good budget, and say, okay, listen, I'm going to dedicate this amount of money and I'm going to work on this farm for 18 months. It's not a 6 months, not a year. It's a longer process, right? So that's part one if you want to start getting into the listing side. To do some advertising for some buyers? Sure. I mean, you could maybe ask someone about advertising a listing and trying to get some buyers on that if someone will let you. Not everyone wants to do that, but that would be a great thing to do. Yeah.
I love that, dude. So can you go a little bit deeper into what it takes to break into a farm? I mean, you said 18 months. What are you sending out? What else does it take besides just mailing and knowing the area? Anything else?
So listen, stuff of value, right? So you can just do sales for the last quarter. You could do sales the last quarter this year versus last quarter last year. I mean, you have to think of stuff to make up because you don't have things to send out. But everyone wants to know about the values. You could do something, here's the highest price per square foot sale in this area. And obviously, I guess you're allowed to advertise and, what things sold for, right? And so here was the lowest price per square foot sale. First 6 months of last year versus first 6 months of this year, this is how the market trend. I want to do something. I've had more and more people this year decide to leave California. I'm pulling up some stats to say how many of my sales this year, what percentage left to stay. Off the top, I'm going to say 60% of the people this year have left and gone somewhere.
Where'd they go primarily, just so I know?
So I had two next door neighbors, didn't know each other, both went to Tennessee. I just had a Reno yesterday. I have a Scottsdale. I have two going to Bend, Oregon, Texas. So yeah, I mean, two to Florida. But people are leaving a lot this year, a lot. Now, it's nice for referral fees. You got to remember that part of the business, right? Where are you going? Great. Let me get you the best agent in Jupiter, Florida for you, and have you get the expert so you know exactly. Oh, great. So, you work on that part, but it's amazing how many people have left.
That's interesting, dude, because people are buying these houses too. Where are they coming from? Right.
Right. So I'm moving some people from one house to another. As I said, I've done more double ends this year than ever, because, if you know people that are thinking about selling, that's gold. You really got to know your clientele who's thinking about moving, who mentioned it, because guess what? You call them up and they'll go, okay, and you can sell it. I mean, you can sell it. So, like anything, you've got to call your database, and it's in any price range, right? Clients that are thinking about moving, talked about moving, and you can put a lot more deals together now, not being on the market than ever before. It just seems much easier because the inventory is skinny and people are just buying stuff. I mean, people are buying. It's crazy. I just closed a $4 million deal and the guy got two and an eighth, right? I mean,
Wow.
he was like, he's like, that's almost free money. I said, that is almost, but that's why he bought. He says, it's crazy. He's like, the money factor is unbelievable.
Yeah. When you look historically to where interest rates have been, and if we think that, because we're basically an all-time low, interest rates are going to climb, it actually becomes more than free money, because when you're locked into, and this is great for knowledge for people out there informing clients, when you're locked into a 2.8 and then interest rates at some point climb to 4.8, that's actually a subsidy. It's more than free money. It's like they're paying you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've got the best buy program. You take you from your current house, move you to a nice big house, same payment. Do you like that trade-in program? They're like, that's amazing, right? And so they're like, let's do it. Because everyone's loved to get something bigger and a better house and this, that, and the other for almost the same payment. They're like, let's do it. And they're like, okay. Because, people at 4% change and they get a nice big house. Listen, it changes a bit, but I mean, in principle, it's like, that's a great trade-up program. I want in. And that's what everyone's doing.
Hey, Mark, how about this? What if you, I would be surprised if you do this already. What if you just familiarize yourself, for example, with what are the mortgage programs available right now? And then also what the difference in the monthly payment would be, or how much more buying power you would have. So for example, if you knew, okay, 2.8 is real, that's sort of a special rate. I'm sure that person had, there are ways to get those special rates. But, if you could lower your rate by 1%, you have this much more buying power. We could move you up into just that information alone would be gold to realtors to then educate their clients. Yeah.
I mean, listen, once people start speaking with a lender, I mean, that's the first thing. Chat with the lender, get the latest rates for you. People go, oh my God, that's all my payments going to be? Great. And then they give you the limit for shopping. And then honestly, people just want to go shopping right now. It's like they've been kept up at home for a while. Now they just want to go shopping and they want to go buy a house. I mean, it's great. You just have to be out there to help them, because for some reason, these low rates are making people crazy to go buy a house. They're like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's like they just want to go.
That's very true, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how your business looks so that people looking in understand. Right now, you run everything, but you have a full-time assistant or somebody that helps you on the back end. How does that look?
Oh, okay. So yes, I have an amazing assistant who's got a black belt in paperwork and contracts and all that stuff. So yes, because it's impossible with all the paperwork you have going on now to do all this stuff. It's literally impossible, and it's tedious, and it's no fun. It's nothing I want to do, right? It's great fun speaking with people and showing and doing the deals, but the paperwork stuff, I think if you didn't have someone helping you, first of all, you're nuts, and secondly, it will make you crazy and depressed, because it's horrible chasing around signatures. I mean, my assistant Terry is chasing people around. You didn't sign this page. You didn't do that. The seller's not sending back the contingency removal. I mean, it's a pestering job, and I don't want to do it because I want the fun stuff right now. So, but yes, you have to have an assistant. You have to have someone doing this because the paperwork is ridiculous. I mean, I printed out listing contracts to go on yesterday. I think I was at 38 pages. I mean, the best stuff, because the clients ask me about all this stuff. I'm like, all the best stuff's on the first page. Here's the price, here are the terms, here's the commission. Like, okay, the rest is all the yada yada. But it was 38 pages of stuff.
Do you have any other help besides your main admin or assistant?
So it's being that, and I've started the concept of maybe having someone else, like a team. So I have someone else that works with me, Sherry, right now, that's showing properties and working on listings and bringing some business in. And then every now and then we've been, super busy. My wife has a license and she'll show and help me out.
I love that, dude. One thing that you told me early on, way back, you said you gave me some advice on hiring an assistant, and I've been giving that advice to other people too. And that was, look, if you can't afford an assistant, you can share an assistant with somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? Can you tell us about how you did that at the beginning?
That's a must. So in other words, I think you have to have an assistant. You can't go without an assistant, especially in this day and age, because there's too much paperwork and stuff. So what we did was there were 3 of us in the office, because at the time we figured whatever the salary was, we split it by 3, that we could afford that monthly. And so we were similar in business, a number of deals, right? And so we decided we're going to hire a full-time assistant because we wanted someone there always answering the phone. We didn't want someone, okay, they're only here on Tuesdays and Thursdays and in the morning on a Friday. We didn't want to have that scenario. So we split it 3 ways and hired someone full-time, and we just had it set up at their desk, different names on different lines. And so when they pick up that line, they'd say, oh, Mark Tyron's office. So, but it made it great. And then, obviously we worked out stuff that, escrows took precedence over the marketing stuff. And so if someone had a new escrow, they jumped to the top of the line versus the others on some stuff. But it was great to get things started. And believe me, you have an assistant, your business takes off, and then you want your own. But it's a great way to get started because you really should have someone full-time. That's assistants, coaches, certain things you need to have to get going in the business that are important that people don't think about. You just think, oh, I just need to start making calls. You need to do that, but you need that support team to really help you out. Support team is coaching, support team is assistant. So yeah, you need that.
Oh, interesting.
And how are you? How do you generate most of your business now? Are you obviously you're farming? Are you hitting your sphere of influence? What things do you do to generate your business?
The farming thing. I didn't start farming early enough and be consistent because I did luxury market for years and years and years. Then the REO market hit in what was it in early 90s, right? So early 90s to I think 95, 96, I did all the different REO stuff. I did like sort of home savings, CalFed, B of A, American savings. And I jumped on that and they kept sending, they would send you listings and I'd get a listing in the mail. I'm like, oh, you've listed this. And they would just send you stuff. And I did that for years, and I stopped my farming because the business kept coming in so furiously because they would give you the account back then, and you just got the business, and it was craziness, right? Then in '96, I fell off a cliff a bit because I hadn't been farming. So I would say to anyone, always farm, always farm, always farm, because it's been the greatest return down the road here because people just call you about listing the house, right? And they'll call you to come over. They'll call you to buy a house. So farming is the best thing for your future business down the road because, as I said, once you've established yourself for enough years and they feel confident and know you, they just start calling you. Like you're the default guy and they believe in you and they just call you. So the farming has been the absolute key, and that's been the biggest return. Plus, I'm also repeat referral because after all the years, people keep coming back, and I've sold people 3 or 4 homes and selling kids' homes. So that's a good part of it. And online stuff, people call you and you really just have to have listings because then people call you from your listings. And I think ever more now you need to have listings because everyone's calling the listing agent. You're like, it's even better now to have listings.
Mark, one thing that surprised me when I first interviewed you in a good way was when I tried to dig deeper to see what you were doing, there wasn't anything else. You had just mastered.
So
that's a good thing. It's a good thing. You had mastered this process, and agents overcomplicate things so much
Yes.
they never get things going. So when you're saying always farm, always farm, always farm, I'm thinking in my head, yeah, guys, it is that easy, but you also needs to master your skills as a real estate agent, right?
Right. So listen, yes, always farm, always farm. I'm not 18 million systems and things. And listen, I started listening to all the command stuff. I'm like, oh, during the COVID thing, I'm going to start getting in. And I tapped out pretty quickly. I'm like, no, nope, can't do it because there was too many layers, too deep. Listen, if you're good at that, that's awesome. And you're going to pick up more deals because it's doing stuff where you're sitting at home watching football or something. So that stuff's awesome. I couldn't do it. So the great thing about our business, there's so many different ways to be successful in our business. I've got the simple past clients farming stuff. Some people are doing 8 million things through command and special stuff, and that's great. So it's nice that every different aspect of the business or your techiness or something can take you on different avenues. You can really do well, but just keep doing the thing that you really like to do more, and that creates your success, right? Because I don't have all the million things going through command and the other things and the Deep Space Nine stuff that's going on that I have no idea about, right? So listen, simple works as well. So if you do a lot of simple, it seems to work quite nicely.
There's really two things that you said in there, which are important to highlight. And one is, and I really appreciate it, and that's that so many different things can actually work to pick something you're really good at and something you're really passionate about, it because that will show and you'll be able to stick to it. So I get that. The other thing that cannot be missed in what you said is that it's just consistency over time. So while Mark said, hey, it's cool so many different things work, I think it would be a mistake, for people to switch from, hey, I'm going to farm for 5 minutes. Oh, wait, I didn't get, let me turn to online.
Right.
It really is time over task over time.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, everyone does something. People like to throw the parties and that. Listen, if you're social and throw a party, that's a good way to do it too. I like, the thought of that is like, yeah, can I have a root canal instead? I mean, it's not big. I mean, it's just not there for me.
That's me too, Mark. I love that. There's a question from Pam. Pam's always tuning in here. What's up, Pam? She is asking, what is it that you farm with? What does that look like? What does it consist of?
So my program's all postcards, right? And you want to do a nice postcard. And some of the things I want to say when you do a just listed, just sold, don't just do a just listed, just sold. So, whether you sold it in 57 days or 98% of list, throw something else on there, throw a little stat, because just listed, now listen, it might not be that impressive. You might say sold at 96% of the sale price. That might not be that great, right? But it's a something different. Sold in 38 days. Well, the average market time might be lower, but you say sold in 38 days. Like, wow, you sold it in 38 days. They don't know if that's impressive or not so impressive. So if you throw a little extra thing on your just listed, just sold, you so look up something. Let's say it's a development. You could say highest price per square foot this year in the development. I'm like, oh, I mean, just, what else can you add to just listed, just sold that's a little bit different? So you add that something else to it. So, or if it was on the market last year, on the previous on the market last year, 157 days, sold in 8. Do something other than the words just listed, just sold. So think about what you can add. What else can I add to it? Just listed, just sold to kick it up a notch kind of thing. So it might not be impressive. As I said, you sold it in 96 days. I don't know, that might be no big deal, or 96%, right? So put something else on there, So
that's a great idea, because you're sending it out anyway, right? And so everybody has the just listing, just sold. You're going to send the postcard out anyway. Throw in an additional headline that really highlights something about the property that you were able to accomplish.
And they don't know if selling it in 38 days is fast or slow, but they see it like, oh, it sold in 38 days. They don't know the stats for the days on market for right around them or that development. So say something else. And so it sounds good. Oh, 38 days. Mostly sounds pretty good, right? I mean, or whatever it is.
And you can usually find, that's a funny thing about statistics, right? You can usually find, if there's 100 different statistics you could put on there, you can usually find 2 or 3 that will favor your particular sale or property.
But it makes you sound like a little better than listen, people still like potentially, if they're in the market looking at just listed, just sold. But if you can say another stat or two, that just makes it even better. Yeah.
That's a very good point, dude. One of the things that stood out from the very beginning of looking at what you do is you always send out quality material, right?
Yeah.
That's number one. And number two, the message is very consistent. So you're right. I do see that. Yes, you just listed or you just sold it, but there's always a stat involved with it, and I love that. I really do. I think that does make a difference.
The stats make you look like an expert, which is absolutely the case. Just for example, just knowing exactly it's back to what we talked about before, knowing exactly what's available in terms of mortgage rates right now. And has that ticked up a little bit? Has it ticked down a little bit?
Right.
Just people, I know realtors that are, that are very busy. They get the sheet of what the mortgage rates are every single day. Just staying current with one of those important factors so that you have something to talk about whenever you talk real estate.
Yeah. Listen, as I said, you have to be current and knowledge about the different programs and what's going on. Yeah.
All right, a couple of questions here. One,
Yeah.
Rhoda's asking, were you ever in the REO business? Did you get into that, Mark?
No, I did that for years.
Okay. How did you get into that originally?
Oh God, how did I get in? That was in the 90s. It was a while ago. Listen, you start to know, it was different back then. You start to know an REO manager, the numbers were all readily available, and you chat with them, and then they refer you to someone else. Another way is if you ask someone that knows the REO business in somewhere not in our particular area, like maybe somewhere that's 100 miles from you, and say, listen, do you have the REO manager for this bank? And then see if you can get the number or have them put in a word, and you'll send them referrals on the first few deals, let's say, because you want to get to the REO manager. Now you can probably deal it through your bank, or you need to know who you deal with. But back then, once you got an account, you had the account, they would just send you stuff. And I was doing recarpet and repaint in a million houses. I had carpet crews going out, paint crews running around, and just send me mails. I got sent mails, and we're in Thousand Oaks. They just sent me a listing one time to Thousand Palms. They said it's close, wrong tree. Thousand Palms is like forever away. We're Thousand Oaks. So they just send me stuff, and I'm like, no, that one's not for me. So, but yeah. So you got to know the REO managers. Get in with the REO managers, and now I think they're dealing it like you get one, you get one, you get one, you get one, and they're kind of moving it around because whoever gives us loans, you get the REO. So you have to see how it is this time. It changes each wave of the market, but
it always has to do with the relationship. So you hit that right on. I think that
have relationships. Yeah.
Question on the postcards: when you list a property or sell a property outside of your farm, do you still do just listed, just sold, or no?
Yeah. I just did one in a farm that wasn't mine, like on the island. I sent out stuff, and I got a call for, come chat with me about listing the house. So yes, and I even had, I had a listing come up in, you do EDM stuff, right? And you can't exactly get your zip code that you want or the exact street. There's overspray. I got a listing in the overspray. So it's a development I don't even use. There was a one-off luxury house in this development on top of the hill. It was some special house. And the overspray is, we're 900,000. I'm selling stuff to a couple million. Well, all of a sudden, one of the people called me. It was a $2 million house. It was right in the middle of my overspray. So they ended up calling me. So you send stuff out, and I'll send it everywhere. So wherever you do it, you quickly get the address from the title company, and then you add another 1,000 because it's cheap. Remember, when you do luxury stuff, if I get a call, average commission you could say is 50,000. So hey, am I going to spend a little bit more to get another, commission? Sure, great. I'll spend a little bit more because what if I get another call? It's great.
I love that. Daniel's asking, how do you find the addresses and who do you use to send out the postcards?
So title company. So if you have an area that you just sold in, you ask the title company if you have addresses and you send it over to your printing company and they deal with that. You don't want to deal with all that stuff. You've got to work with people that deal with it. So that's why I say it's better to have a great assistant, someone that can do this stuff, because I don't want to deal with the formatting and which it is and download this, and not a chance. So call the title company. It's all about making stuff up. Just call the title company sends it to your printer fiddles with it, and it goes out. That's how it should be done. If there's too many steps involved and too many things you have to do, it'll never happen. I'm like a one-stepper guy, or maybe two-step. That's where this command stuff made me nuts. I thought, I'm going to do it during COVID. I'm going to listen to all these seminars and listen. And after I got in my second or third one, I'm like, no, it's not going to work for me. So, listen, if you can make phone calls and pay a little bit to do some stuff, because if you won't do it, if you do it, you have to think about your return and spend a bit of money. It's okay to spend some money, because look what you can make in this business.
That's very
right?
true.
If you're not going to do it, pay someone else to do it. Honestly, because if you're not going to do it, pay someone to do it. Otherwise, it's just not going to get done. You may as well not be in the business.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite stories when it comes to sending out postcards and something awesome that happened that you can share with us? Because you have some pretty cool stories, man.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I sent out, when you send out now and then a letter, like, oh, I have someone for your house. I got someone looking at a family in, they're looking for this house. We've seen everything in the market. If you're interested in selling yours, call me. So I got one of those. I sent it out, and I usually get pretty good response because people realize I'm not a BSer. Again, the credibility, they see your name. Some guy let me show his house, left the key on the map that I never met, didn't know. But I said, oh, he ended up calling me, go, they're in town today. And he goes, oh, I said, well, can I show it? And he goes, well, I'll leave the key under the mat. You come in and show it. If you wouldn't mind locking the door, leaving the key in the house. So I showed a house for $3 million, and I didn't even know the guy. So, that's from just that credibility and them being okay with you and knowing you. Like, I just left me the key for his house.
Can you imagine doing that now with the COVID PED forms? Yeah. Crazy,
everything's
right?
all freaky, but that was kind of a cool little thing. So,
that is an awesome story, too. That's immense amount of trust.
But as I said, once you're in the club of that estate club, they trust you and know you and think, okay, listen, the guy's only seen me on postcards. I could be total crook other than that, right? Just seeing a nice photo on a postcard. You sold some stuff. All right, I'll give him the key to my house.
You do update your picture, by the way, on postcards. So good job on that.
I have to do some other stuff. Yeah. So yeah. What else?
Go ahead.
I did that House Hunters International show.
That's right.
So this is for everyone. Everyone can do that. If anyone's thinking about you want to go buy a ski condo in Mammoth, or you're going to buy a second home somewhere, call up House Hunters International. They'll film you. So it's very interesting. They need shows. So we bought a place in Florence, Italy. So I thought, I'm going to call them because I love that show, right? House Hunters International. They go through the properties and you pick one out. So we bought a place, and I thought, I'm going to call them. So it's funny. It's a reenactment show. So you have to own the place or rented the place before they'll do the show. So the other two that supposedly they're going to go buy are decoys. So so it's kind of funny, right? You're like, oh, really? Yeah. So we bought the place. So I called the show, and you had to fill out a few questionnaires, but they'd film it because I thought, number one, I'm in real estate. That's a bit of PR. Number two, we bought a rental in Florence, so it'll be great for renting it. So they came here to Westlake, and they filmed us here in Westlake, and then we go to Florence, and they filmed us there in Florence, looking at our place, and then looking at two decoys, and we go, oh, we love this one, we love that one, and so it's funny. So they do that, and I'll just take the one little bit. When they do the 4 months later shot, 4 months later, they're enjoying a coffee at their place or wine or something. It's the afternoons. So in the morning, they come with a moving van. They take your stuff out of the property, right? So it looks a little sparse. And then you film your walkthrough. It's called the walkthrough. So you see the place. Like, I kind of like this place. It looks okay. I don't know. I would change a few things. And then you have lunch because it's union. So you have to have lunch for an hour and a half. And then during lunch, the whole moving crew bring all your stuff back in. And then in the afternoon, you film 4 months later with a glass of wine. And we love our place and Florence is fantastic. So anyway, so we did that show. But the main thing is call House Hunters or those shows, because when we called, they said it's been such a popular show. The company, I know HGTV, has ordered double the amount of shows and they need people for the show. So I don't know if anyone's going to go buy something somewhere, just call them and see. We just filled in some forms online and they sent it. So it was a cool little PR thing. So, someone should do that if you're going to buy something somewhere else.
Now I can't see the show without thinking about what you told me, dude.
Yeah, 4 months later is really that afternoon.
Yeah, you ruined it. It's like, oh, wait a minute. There's no tooth fairy. I mean, reality TV isn't really real. I mean, come on. I had a couple of follow-up questions from generating your business, and when you were talking about farming, how large is your farm now? Did that grow over time?
I think we send out about 7,500 postcards.
And how often do you do that?
Every 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. So this is good nuts and bolts to get.
It's a fair amount of money, but the return is like 160% at least. So
and I love that you're tracking that too.
It pays back way more every year than we put out. And we put out quite a bit of money. I mean, you send out 7,500 full size, really big size postcards and all in color. But it pays off. And so it pays off with the calls, and it pays off with that future business too, of more calls coming in. So it's hard to track. Each year it pays off, number one. I know people have called from the mailers. But then as years go on, how much sort of goodwill does that really form in getting more people to call me? So yes, as I said, farming is a thing. Anyone that's starting, start farming now and never stop. It will be your best investment in the business ever.
And do you live in the area that you sell?
I live in one of the areas. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the farms, I live in the area, and the other one, I don't.
Yeah, you can't. Right, you can't live in more than one, of course. But and I do think that breaking into a luxury market, so let's just say, hey, I want to break into Bel Air, but geez, I can't afford really to live in Bel Air. I do think that being there as much physically as you can would also help. So even if it's like, hey, I'm going to pick a coffee shop to hang out in, or post COVID, or you can now do it outside, whatever it is, just being more present in that area is just going to naturally bump you into more business. Just like postcards are making you really a presence in the area, I think physical presence also.
Yeah, listen, you can also look for functions, right? In certain areas or certain, like, might have a country club nearby. See what charity events there, see what's going on, and try and get into some of those events, because you'll meet people that live in that neighborhood. So you kind of see what events are being thrown around that area. And that's just from being online and looking at stuff and going to things like, I live at Sherwood. So you can go to things at Sherwood Country Club, because a lot of times Sherwood people that live in that development will go to events at the country club. So you can potentially look at things like that. But listen, a couple of the very successful agents in the areas here don't live in the farms and don't do stuff in the farms. So, I wouldn't for someone really be like hung up, I don't live there, I'm never going to do well. No, that's not part of it. I mean, you really, once people see your face all the time and you've done business, people will start talking to other people and you'll do well.
Sure. I was just trying to think about different ways that you could break into, because people are going to say, okay, sure. There's a momentum that you create by selling more, then more postcards, then selling even more, so how do we break in? And another one you said is you get quite a bit of business, of course, from repeat and referral. And I'm wondering how systematized or not is your contact to your sphere of influence, the people, your past sales.
Very complex. They get my sphere gets my postcard every 3 weeks, and that's it. So so the people in that farm get the farm area stuff, and there's multiple little farms, and then all my past clients, because they're dotted all around, they get my same mailers too. So it's nothing extra special or difficult. In other words, I'm not trying to make things more difficult for myself so I don't do it. I want to make it as easy as possible so I do it. And so by doing one postcard every 3 weeks that goes to everyone I know, everyone I've sold to, everyone on the farm, everyone outside the farm, that makes life easier. And so it happens. And then listen, that's the whole point. They can see that I'm doing things. So yes, it's not. And then the one thing I do that's different every year is I'll send out a holiday card that just, family stuff and some pictures. But otherwise, everyone just gets my postcards. Yeah, I'm not trying to make it difficult.
No, it's great. It's great. And it's great to hear from someone that does a lot of business, very successful in the luxury market, to say, hey, you know what? We're not doing all these crazy things. We're just back to what we talked about before, which is just time on task over time, really knowing your market, connecting with people, being the expert, and then just being consistent over time.
Yeah. Just summarized it. That was it.
Yeah, that's it. Just be consistent. Doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, listen, it's a simple business, but you have to do a lot and repetitively and just keep doing it. But I would tell anyone, farm, start farming, keep farming, always farm. It's unbelievable returns as things go. You just keep reaping the benefits of it. Yep.
I love it. Well, Mark, thanks for being on, man. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. That was fun.
Yeah,
All right, guys.
Paul, that was fun, man. That was a good one.
Hey, that's great. And I took some fabulous notes from what Mark shared, and I'm happy to share them. Happy to share them online also. I'll post this to my Instagram, which is at Paul Mark Morris, MARK MORRIS on Instagram, because I got some really good nuggets in terms of, and I just have to say, just as a recap, for example, is Mark already has done all the work and time and energy to get the listing. And then when he was holding it open, he was just holding it open for an extra hour. You've already put the signs out, you do all this stuff. And it's just that one little bit of extra effort. So when people are rushing around, they want to squeeze one more house in, yours is open. When people are done and they're on their way back, yours are the signs that they're driving by. So it's just that little, there's real amazing stuff, and you make it sound easy, to be honest, but you enjoy it, and you're adding that little bit of extra effort is terrific. And really a pleasure, Mark. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for rocking it, bro.
All right.
See you
Bye.
out there.
Bye.
See you guys. Thanks, everybody.